Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Tamara, and today I'm going to be talking to you about cognitive load theory. So, what is cognitive load theory? It refers to the amount of information that our working memory can process at any one given time. It is based on the idea that our working memory has a limited capacity. Our brain, as wonderful as it is, will automatically sort information into what are called schemas. So then what are schemas and how do they work? Schemas are basically categories of information that you already know. Our brain will sort information into like categories, making it easier for us to both process and retrieve information. When new coming information that comes in does not fit nicely in or well into certain already pre-existing schemas, our brain will adapt quickly by managing ways to fit the new knowledge into already present schemas or by creating new categories. This process is much like a river. It is active and fluid and can be enhanced with the right efforts and tools. So then how do we help a learner to minimize cognitive load and categorize their schemas? We must first consider that there's three main types of cognitive load. You have extraneous load, which is the way in which information is presented to the learner's environment, and the amount of information available to a learner on any given topic. All of these affect the extraneous load. You have intrinsic load, which refers to the level of difficulty or the level of challenge that is presented in the new information or task. In other words, will the learner feel an information overload? Will there be too much information provided or too complex of information provided for the learner on any given topic? And lastly, we have germane load, which refers to the mental efforts that are required by a learner to make connections between new information and existing knowledge. As the ideas of schemas would predict, it is easier to acquire new information when a learner can link it to similar information or concepts they already have. Let's first start talking about extraneous load as an educator and what efforts we can make to help minimize extraneous load and maximize on the student's learning environment. So remember, extraneous load refers to the environment, the outside factors of learning. First, we consider minimizing distractions. Things like loud noises, cluttered areas, students or learners having side conversations, or learners being distracted by cell phones or laptops. We also want to provide a good learning environment. Things to consider would be, for example, the temperature of the room. Is it too cold or is it too stuffy and uncomfortable for the learner? Similarly, are the chairs and desks comfortable for the learner? What about the lighting? Is it too bright or too dim? We also want to consider how information is presented. This is an external environment concept that we as educators can control. We want to make sure that the information presented is both simple and not too excessive. Things like using too many unnecessary graphs, crazy fonts or colors, and excessive unnecessary slides can affect the learner's environment. We want to attempt as educators to avoid repetitiveness as well and redundancy. Any information that we provide, we want to try to make as relevant as possible to limit sounding repetitive and redundant to the learner. Next, we consider the internal load. Remember that the internal load refers to the complexity of the information that is being learned and taught. Ways to optimize internal load for our learners is to keep information simple. Providing clear instructions and reducing the number of steps or complicated instructions will assist with keeping a presentation simple. Basically, we want to avoid any bells and whistles in our presentations as well. We also want to keep information relevant, avoiding overload by providing too many unnecessary details or unnecessary information on the topic can help with keeping information relevant. Breaking down information into smaller chunks or concepts is also helpful for the learner as it makes the information more manageable and digestible. Practicing smaller steps before moving into bigger concepts will help the learner, again, making it more digestible. Identifying prior knowledge is so important as we can determine what the learner already knows, and it helps to prevent information overload. It also helps to prevent from presenting learners with concepts that they are completely unfamiliar with prior to learning the topic at hand. This is where assessments come in and can help immensely. Providing support is also a way to encourage internal load or optimize internal load. Being available to the learner for questions, and then allowing breaks for the learner to take when needed when we see that they're feeling tired or overwhelmed with the information. Last but not least, we want to discuss germane load and how we can foster germane load as an educator. Germane load simply refers to the way in which learners can apply their newfound knowledge. Encouraging the engagement of questions and asking questions will help with this process as it prompts your learner to reflect on what the material is. And we want to ask questions that are specific to real life problems in hopes on guiding them to real world solutions. Similarly, providing relevant real world examples is helpful in this process. You want to help your students to make connections between materials and something that they experienced in their own life. And we want to encourage self-reflection. We hope that the learner will self-reflect and be able to process the information learned to the point where they can make it applicable into their own life. In conclusion, cognitive load theory refers to the limited capacity we have as learners to take on new information. Our brain categorizes things and places them into like-minded subject areas, and as we discussed, these are called schemas. As educators and trainers, it is important for us to assist our learners in easing the cognitive load by knowing and understanding such theories as the cognitive load theory, and we can consider the three main types of cognitive load that were discussed. Knowing and understanding these three type of loads, intrinsic, extraneous, and germane, are key in helping our students and learners not to feel overwhelmed, frustrated, fatigued, or lose motivation in the learning process. I hope this was useful for you all, and I hope that you will use cognitive learning theory when you are teaching your students, considering the three main types of loads and how you can maximize learning for your students using these concepts. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.